Something is hiding in your kitchen cupboard, and it's far more dangerous than anyone told you. For decades, Brits have trusted gravy granules and stock cubes as harmless staples. But behind the familiar packaging and cozy advertising lies a cocktail of additives, hidden chemicals, and manufacturing shortcuts that could be putting your family at serious risk. Some of these brands contain ingredients linked to headaches, hypertension, digestive issues, and even long-term inflammation. And the worst part? Many of these products are marketed as homely, traditional, or suitable for families, while quietly cutting corners that put your health last. I've spent weeks digging through food safety reports, consumer complaints, manufacturing disclosures, and whistleblower statements. And what I found was alarming. We're counting down the 8 UK gravy and stock cube brands you should avoid at all costs. And just wait until we reach number 1. It's a brand nearly every British home uses daily. Number 8. Knockoff budget. Stock cubes. Walk into any UK supermarket and you'll notice the plain label stock cubes stacked quietly on the lower shelves. These value brands are marketed as simple, affordable alternatives to the big name products. And for families trying to stretch a budget, they seem like a harmless bargain. They dissolve fast, they promise a boost of flavour, and the packaging often hints that they're basically the same as the premium versions, just cheaper. But that assumption is exactly where the danger begins. Behind the low price lies a level of cost-cutting that most consumers never think twice about. When food analysts break down these cubes, the first red flag is just how little real food they contain. Many are made with minimal vegetable or meat extracts, and instead rely heavily on salt, synthetic flavour enhancers, and bulking agents. These aren't just cheap ingredients. They're chosen specifically because they allow manufacturers to stretch every batch as far as possible, even if the quality suffers. What makes these cubes even more unpredictable is the inconsistency from batch to batch. Because many supermarket value cubes are produced by rotating third-party factories rather than a single controlled manufacturer, one batch may be mildly acceptable, while the next might contain different additives, higher sodium levels, or undisclosed allergens. Some former factory workers have admitted that lower-tier products are often made from leftover ingredients that didn't pass quality checks for more expensive brands. It's a dumping ground in disguise, but one with a shiny supermarket label on it. For the average consumer, the risks can build quietly over time. The extreme salt content alone can push people, especially seniors or anyone with hypertension, well beyond healthy limits. Artificial flavour boosters and MSG-like substitutes have been linked to headaches and sensitivity reactions. Modified starches and emulsifiers can trigger digestive discomfort, leaving people wondering why a simple soup or stew doesn't sit right. And when these cubes are used weekly in family meals, especially for children with smaller bodies and lower thresholds, the cumulative chemical load becomes a real concern. If this is what's hiding in the cheapest cubes on the shelf, you may be wondering what happens when you eat gravy, mixes you don't buy yourself. Because the next item on this list is something millions consume without ever seeing an ingredients label, and the problems run much deeper. Number 7. Cafe and takeaway. Bulk. Gravy mixes. Most people don't think twice about the gravy served in a cafe, chip shop, carvery, or local takeaway. It arrives steaming, rich, and comforting. The perfect finishing touch to hot chips, pies, or a Sunday plate. And because these places serve food every day, customers assume they must be using products that are safe, regulated, and consistent. After all, how dangerous could a simple pot of gravy really be? The truth is, the bulk powdered mixes used behind the counter are some of the least transparent food products in the UK. Unlike supermarket brands, these catering-grade mixes rarely display a full ingredient list where customers can see it. Many come in large industrial tubs or unbranded bags meant only for staff use, which means you have no idea what's actually inside the gravy being poured over your meal. When food testers examine these powders, they routinely find extremely high levels of sodium and chemical flavor enhancers designed to boost taste cheaply. Because these mixes are sold in such large quantities, ingredients like real herbs, real fat, or natural stocks are replaced with ultra-processed shortcuts. The goal isn't quality, it's speed, shelf life, and profit margin. Even more concerning is the issue of hidden allergens. Several cafes and takeaways unknowingly use gravy powders containing milk derivatives, wheat, celery extract, mustard, or soy. And because many staff members aren't trained to read industrial food labels carefully, cross-contamination becomes almost impossible to track. This makes the gravy especially risky for people with sensitivities or dietary restrictions. There have even been cases where substitute powders were used because a supplier ran out of the usual brand, meaning a completely different set of ingredients ended up in the food without customers ever being told. Health-wise, the consequences can be far worse than a salty aftertaste. The sheer amount of sodium in some of these mixes can push a single serving of takeaway gravy into danger zone territory, raising blood pressure and causing fluid retention. Chemical flavor enhancers may trigger headaches, tingling sensations, or digestive issues in sensitive individuals. And when such gravies are consumed regularly, as many families and seniors do through weekly takeaways, the cumulative effect becomes significant. If you think that's unsettling, wait until you see what's hiding in one of the UK's most trusted grocery brands. Number 6 is a name nearly every household knows, but very few realise what's actually inside their favourite gravy tin. Number 6. Bisto Original Granules. For many families across the UK, Bisto isn't just a gravy, it's a tradition. The iconic red tub sits in cupboards nationwide, a comforting sight that promises familiarity, consistency, and the nostalgic flavour of childhood Sunday dinners. It's the brand people reach for without thinking, trusting decades of advertising that paints Bisto as wholesome, homely, and dependable. But when you look past the nostalgia, the truth behind the classic formula is far less comforting. The first shock comes from the ingredients list. Many people assume Bisto is made from real meat drippings, rich stock, and slow-cooked flavours. In reality, the original product contains no actual meat at all, just a combination of modified starches, caramel colouring, flavour enhancers, palm fats, salt, and additives designed to mimic depth and richness. That dark brown colour? It's largely a dye. The thick, silky texture? Achieved through powdered thickeners, not slow roasting or real stock bases. What concerns food researchers most is the reliance on additives that can cause problems for sensitive consumers. Certain flavour boosters have been linked with headaches or reactions in those who are intolerant to processed glutamate sources. Caramel colouring, while legal, has long raised questions due to its potential byproducts during manufacturing. And the sodium levels, often overlooked, are shockingly high for such a widely used product. A standard serving can push adults and especially children far closer to their maximum recommended intake than most people realise. But the real issue is frequency. Bisto isn't something people consume once a month. For many households, it's used weekly, sometimes several times a week. Parents splash it onto sausages, roasts, chips, and casseroles, assuming it's harmless. Seniors use it to make meals easier to eat. Young people rely on it for quick comfort food. Over time, that high salt, high additive combination becomes a quiet threat, slowly increasing blood pressure, irritating digestion, and contributing to long-term inflammation. And yet, its biggest strength, brand loyalty, is also what keeps its problems hidden. People trust Bisto so deeply that they rarely question what's actually inside the tub. But if you think a nostalgic supermarket staple is concerning, wait until you see the brand that's been in British kitchens for over a century and still manages to hide what's really in its cubes. Number 5 is a shock for nearly every household. Number 5. OXO beef and chicken cubes. OXO cubes are one of the most recognisable items in any British kitchen. Those tiny foil-wrapped blocks have been a cooking shortcut for generations, promising rich, savoury flavour in seconds. People assume they're concentrated versions of real stock, a compact blend of beef or chicken essence that melts into soups, sauces, and gravies. The branding reinforces that belief, leaning heavily on history, tradition, and trust. But when you break down what's actually inside an OXO cube, the reality is surprisingly far from the wholesome image the company has cultivated. Despite the meaty names, OXO cubes contain only small traces of real beef or chicken extract. The bulk of the cube is made of salt, yeast extract, vegetable oils, sugar, starches, and flavorings designed to mimic the taste of slow-cooked stock. This isn't a concentrated broth, It's a reconstitution of cheap components working together to trick your palate into believing you're tasting something richer. And because the cubes are so small, manufacturers rely on extremely strong flavor enhancers to achieve the intensity people expect. One of the biggest concerns is the sodium content. A single OXO cube can contain an enormous portion of the recommended daily salt intake, and that's before you add it to a dish that already contains seasoning. For adults, this can push blood pressure upward over time. For children, the impact is even more pronounced as their smaller bodies and developing systems process salt less efficiently. Many parents use OXO cubes in pasta sauces, casseroles, and quick meals, unaware that each cube quietly adds a heavy salt load to their child's diet. Beyond sodium, there are the additives. Modified starches can cause digestive discomfort in sensitive people. Yeast extract, while safe for many, is a concentrated form of glutamate that can trigger headaches or reactions in individuals who are sensitive to MSG-like compounds. The vegetable oils used in the cubes are often highly processed, stripped of nutrients, and chosen purely for cost-effectiveness rather than quality. When combined, these ingredients create a product that tastes comforting but doesn't nourish. The most unsettling truth is how universal these cubes are. Nearly every household has used them. Nearly every generation has grown up with them. And because they seem so ordinary, their risks are almost invisible. Before we move to the next item, a quick reminder. If you're finding this countdown eye-opening so far, hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel massively. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Because if you think supermarket brands are concerning, wait until you see what discount premium alternatives from budget chains are really made of. Number 4 pretends to be an upgrade, but the truth is much worse. Number 4. Lidl and Aldi off-brand premium gravies. In recent years, UK shoppers have increasingly turned to Lidl and Aldi for cheaper alternatives to branded products. Their premium gravy granules and stock mixes are especially popular, often packaged in sleek tubs or foil packets that mimic the style of more expensive supermarket ranges. Many customers believe these off-brand gravies offer the same quality as well-known products, just at a better price. The packaging suggests richer flavor, better ingredients, and a step up from basic value cubes. But beneath the upgraded design, the reality is far less impressive. Independent food testers and consumer groups have repeatedly found that these premium-looking alternatives suffer from one major issue: inconsistent formulation. Because discount chains frequently switch suppliers behind the scenes, the recipe for a single product can change multiple times in a year. One batch might taste fine, while the next suddenly has more salt, a thinner texture, or a chemical aftertaste that loyal buyers quickly notice. For a product sold as a higher quality option, that lack of stability is a warning sign, and for sensitive consumers, it's more than just an inconvenience. Another problem lies in the ingredient substitutions used to keep prices low while still creating the illusion of a premium product. Instead of relying on slow-cooked meat stock or real herbs, many of these gravies are boosted with caramel coloring, cheap fats, artificial flavor compounds, and anti-caking agents. Some customers have reported metallic or bitter aftertastes, which are often linked to shortcuts in processing or cheaper synthetic flavor enhancers. In several cases, shoppers with food sensitivities have experienced reactions because the ingredients had changed without any clear notification on the packaging. For health-conscious consumers, the sodium levels alone can be alarming. Despite being marketed as higher-tier options, many discount gravies contain just as much or even more salt than the mainstream brands. And because families often serve larger portions when the gravy tastes weaker or thinner, they unintentionally consume even higher amounts. The unsettling part is that most buyers genuinely believe they're choosing a safer or better-made product simply because the packaging looks nicer. But when the formula behind that packaging shifts constantly, trust becomes impossible. And if inconsistent formulations worry you, the next item on this list is even more troubling. Number 3 comes from a global brand that claims to be chef-inspired, yet hides some of the most misleading ingredients in the entire gravy market. Number 3. Knorr stock pots and cubes. Knorr has positioned itself as the chef's choice of stock products. The branding is clean, modern, and reassuring, with terms like rich flavor, slow, simmered taste, and made with real ingredients stamped across every label. Their stock pots in particular are marketed as a premium upgrade from traditional cubes, a concentrated gel that promises restaurant-level depth. For many families, Knorr feels like the safest, highest quality option on the shelf. But behind that polished image hides a recipe that is far more artificial than consumers realize. One of the biggest misconceptions is that Knorr stock pots are made from real simmered stock. In truth, the glossy gel inside those tiny plastic tubs is the result of industrial processing, stabilizers, hydrogenated or semi-hydrogenated fats, and concentrated flavorings designed to simulate richness rather than achieve it naturally. Real meat is present, but usually in surprisingly small amounts, bolstered by yeast extract and artificial flavors that create the illusion of slow cooking. Then there's the salt. Knorr products consistently rank among the highest sodium stock options in the UK. A single stock pot can push a recipe dangerously close to the daily recommended intake before any additional seasoning is added. Because families often use multiple pots in a stew or casserole, the salt load multiplies quickly, increasing health risks, especially for older adults or anyone with existing blood pressure concerns. Some European consumer groups have also criticized Knorr for what they call natural-sounding deception. Words like herb-infused, home-style, or naturally flavored give the impression of simplicity, yet the ingredient lists often include flavor boosters, preservatives, coloring agents, and processed oils. Several watchdog organizations have flagged this as a misleading practice, especially when the packaging suggests the product is close to homemade. And then there's the environmental issue. The plastic stockpot tubs, used once and thrown away, contribute significantly to household waste. With millions sold yearly, the environmental footprint is far from the wholesome, earth-friendly brand image Knorr tends to present. For consumers who rely on these stock pots to feed their families, the truth feels like a betrayal. A product marketed as premium and natural is, in many ways, one of the most highly engineered products on the shelf. But if you think misleading marketing is bad, the next item on this list is something far more dangerous, because it often comes from sellers with no oversight at all. Number 2 exposes a growing online trend that every UK household should be very careful about. Number 2. Cheap instant gravy granules. Most people assume that food bought online goes through the same safety checks as products found in supermarkets. But the rise of third-party sellers, discount bulk suppliers, and anonymous marketplace storefronts has created a disturbing loophole in the UK gravy market. Today, you can buy enormous bags of instant gravy granules for unbelievably low prices, often shipped from overseas, often unbranded, and almost always lacking the transparency you'd expect from anything you plan to eat. These products are marketed with friendly buzzwords like restaurant quality and rich flavor, but behind the listings lies a level of risk that most consumers never consider. The first issue is regulation, or rather, the lack of it. Many of these online products bypass the usual retail supply chain entirely. They aren't sitting on shelves where inspectors might spot inconsistent labels or questionable ingredients. Instead, they're stored in unknown warehouses, imported in bulk, and repackaged by sellers with no accountability. Some listings don't even show a complete ingredient list. Others include vague terms like flavoring, thickener, or spices, which could hide anything from artificial colors to additives banned in certain countries. Food safety experts warn that these granules may come from factories that don't meet UK hygiene standards. Without clear traceability, there's no way to confirm whether the ingredients were stored properly, handled safely, or produced in facilities free from contamination. There have been cases, quietly reported and rarely publicized, where bulk powders purchased online contained unexpected allergens, excessive salt levels, or ingredients that didn't match what was advertised. When something goes wrong, consumers have almost no recourse. There's no brand to contact, no corporate office to challenge, and no guarantee the seller will even respond. The health risks can be serious. Unregulated imports have been found to contain dangerously high sodium levels, flavor enhancers of unknown origin, and stabilizers that can trigger reactions in sensitive individuals. Some powders thicken unnaturally or have a chemical smell when mixed with hot water, a sign of low-grade fats or poorly processed additives. For children, seniors, and anyone with health conditions, these unknown formulas can become a genuine hazard. But the most unsettling part is how attractive these products appear. Because they're cheap, because they're convenient, and because they look similar to legitimate brands, many people never suspect they might be consuming something the UK food system never approved in the first place. And if you think this is the worst the gravy world has to offer, brace yourself. Because the final item on this list is used every day in schools, care homes, hospitals, and public canteens. Number 1 affects some of the most vulnerable people in the country, and almost nobody realizes what's inside it. Number 1, catering grade brown gravy powder. This final item isn't something you buy at the supermarket. It's not sitting on a shelf in your kitchen. It's the gravy that millions of people, including children, hospital patients, and elderly residents in care homes, consume without ever knowing what's actually in it. Catering grade brown gravy powder is sold in huge industrial tubs, often weighing several kilos, and designed for mass catering environments where cost and convenience take priority over quality. It looks innocuous, just another kitchen staple behind the scenes. But food experts consistently warn that these large-scale powders are some of the most heavily processed gravy products in the entire UK food system. The biggest problem is how aggressively cheap the formulas are. When manufacturers create gravy for institutional catering, they're not aiming for nutrition, they're aiming for rock-bottom cost per serving. Instead of real stock, they rely on modified starches, low-grade fats, caramel coloring, artificial flavors, and extremely strong salt levels to produce something that resembles gravy when whisked into boiling water. In many cases, the color and taste come almost entirely from chemical additives, not anything naturally derived. These tubs also tend to include preservatives and anti-caking agents that are rarely found in higher quality consumer products, simply because institutions need powders that can sit in storage for months, sometimes years, without spoiling. That extended shelf life comes at a cost. Several food safety reviews have raised concerns about the cumulative effect of these additives, especially when served repeatedly to vulnerable groups who may already have weakened immune systems or dietary sensitivities. Children in schools often receive this gravy multiple times a week, poured over chips, potatoes, roasts, or pies. Elderly residents in care homes consume it even more frequently because it makes meals easier to swallow. Over time, the combination of excessive salt, low-quality fats, and artificial flavor compounds can contribute to dehydration, high blood pressure, inflammation, and digestive irritation. For people whose health is already fragile, this isn't a small issue. It's a daily, systemic exposure to ingredients their bodies struggle to process. Perhaps the most troubling part is how little attention this receives. Parents rarely see the tubs. Patients never read the labels. Most people simply assume that food served in public institutions must be safe and regulated to a high standard. But as long as cost-cutting remains the priority, these industrial gravies will continue to be used, no matter how unhealthy they may be. Above all, stay informed. Food companies rely on consumer habits. The assumption that we won't read labels, won't question traditions, and won't challenge what's normal. But the more aware you are, the safer your kitchen becomes. If you've ever had a strange reaction to a gravy or stock cube, or if you've discovered a brand you'll never touch again, share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else. And if you found this expose eye-opening, make sure to share it with your friends and family so they know what to avoid too. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive investigation into the everyday products hiding in plain sight.